Toastmasters meeting, and today we are going to talk about procrastination and hopefully put a positive turn on procrastination. I think procrastination has a bad rap, but when I think back over my past successes, I would almost say, which this may be a topic of a future speech, one of the secrets to my success is harnessing the power of procrastination. So from this day forward, I will no longer think of procrastination as a negative because I have plenty of experiences to tell me that when I am doing things in the last hour, it always comes out perfectly. Well, maybe not perfectly, but 80% there. So as one of my coaches, Dan Sullivan, he is quoted with this: there's always a perfect, intelligent reason why you're procrastinating. So we always need to look for the reason. Okay, so today we have a great meeting planned and lots of roles. So our first role I'm going to introduce is Dave Hoffman. He will be our grammarian. So let's hear from Dave.
I understand that one of the former members stole this from me, but I'm the one that came up with this originally. But the word of the day is feckless. And that's my original definition. Totally devoid of feck. The real definition is being weak, inefficient, or ineffective, or inept. And I used an example that was inspired by Oregon's performance on last Saturday's football game. For the first half, they were feckless. And that's being I've never seen them play that bad in a long time.
Thank you, Dave. And next we will have Krista be our general evaluator. Krista, do you want to explain your role?
The general evaluator evaluates those who do not have an evaluator already assigned. So I will evaluate the Toastmaster and then the evaluators of the speeches.
Very good. Next up, we have Patty. She is this your debut performance?
So I'm going to read because I'm timer. And for the speakers, they've asked for 5 to 7 minutes. So when you have 5 minutes, I hold a green sheet. When you have 1 minute, or when you're spoken for 6 minutes, I hold up a yellow sheet. And when you hit your 7-minute limit, I hit the red sheet. And somebody knocks you off the podium. I'm still learning. And then I also time the speech evaluators who have 2 minutes and single topics. Evaluators have 3 minutes and single topics are 2 minutes. Okay.
So our first speaker today, his title of his speech is Finding Grandma. Mr. Lee Richmond will be speaking to us for 5 to 7 minutes. Lee is a distinguished community member with lots of experience here. He has a lovely wife of many, many years. And I'm sure some wonderful, beautiful children and grandchildren. Welcome, Lee.
All that information is on my flash drive someplace in cyberspace. I hope my speech will not be feckless this morning, although I'm not winging it. I did procrastinate enough. When you go take out the garbage in the morning and then find out somebody is living with you, you're in a rush, and then you print out your speech, and it turns out to be something totally different. His name in the file. Get you off to an interesting start. The year was 1857, and Lavina Taylor sat in her parlor of her new home, working on a quilt. Wow. It was hot at the end of July in the Great Salt Lake Valley. Most of her neighbors were gone. She was there mostly alone because they had gone up into a canyon for a celebration of 10 years since the first group of settlers came into the valley. It was amazing what they accomplished in 10 years. They had built homes, they had built an irrigation system, had farms that were very productive. They had built churches, they had built schools and other public buildings and businesses, and commerce was going well. In 10 years, everything that they used to build with had to be brought 1,300 miles by wagon train from the Midwest, what we now call the Midwest. It isn't very mid and it isn't very west when you consider how far west we are. As Lavina sat there, she reflected on the past 10 years and her life at that point. It had its ups and downs. She probably reflected on her family. She was born in 1822 in Stoddard, New Hampshire, one of 3 daughters. She was born to Asa Chandler and Sarah Bennett Chandler. Her father died when she was 9 years old. Later, she and her sisters and her mother joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Mormons. At that time, they moved to where most of the Mormons were gathering in western Illinois on the banks of the Mississippi River. But it just happened to be at a time that they were receiving a tremendous amount of persecution and were driven out of their homes. During the winter of 1845-46, they actually had to leave and cross the Mississippi River on ice. They were able to drive their wagons across the river on a layer of ice. She'd only been there a short time, and as they crossed then Iowa, what is now Iowa, they ran into a hot summer, and they arrived just north of what is now Omaha, Nebraska. Spent the next winter there, preparing for their trek further west. During that time in Iowa, she met and married William Taylor. He was also a recent convert to the church. They arrived in the Great Salt Lake Valley in October of 1847. It was way late in the year to get crops planted, but fortunately some people had come 2 months earlier and got a few crops planted. And as I mentioned, everything that they needed had to come by wagon train. I started out talking about 1857. It would be another 12 years before the railroad would reach Salt Lake. The reason I bring this up is that I have looked at my family tree many times, and I've seen the name Chandler and not thought much about it. Recently, I met somebody who turned out to be related to me about 10 generations back. I have a little app on my phone that's called Family Tree, and there's a little key on that app. If somebody else has the same app, and they have their app turned on, and they're within 100 feet of you, if you push this key, find my relatives, it will find somebody who may be related to you. Turns out that I'm related to Dave Miller, who owns the radio station across the street. We have a common ancestor back about 13 generations. I also found last year that I'm related to a fellow in Salem, and he and I have a common ancestor among the Puritans in Massachusetts. This app is really neat. there are a lot of genealogy apps out there and programs. Probably the most noted is Ancestry.com. I also use one called Family Search. These apps or these programs have a space where you can write memories. So recently I looked up Vina Chandler, and under the memories there was a reference to this book. We ordered it, and in 1857 she was working on a quilt that was to be part of a raffle for the ladies to make money to help immigrants in who were poor. I had a larger photo that's someplace between here and my home, but this is the quilt block that Levina made in 1857. I also found out by researching this, you become much closer to your ancestors. Now I have a great respect for this lady. I said she was pregnant with her seventh child. The first two sons were 7 and 9 years old. The other 4 children had died when they were 2 years old. And in December of 1857, Vina Chandler's last child was born, died, and so did she. I would urge you to look into your family history. There are a lot of programs available that make it really easy these days. If you can find your great-grandparents, chances are you can go clear back to 15 and 1600s. I recently helped a 16-year-old girl get onto the program. She traced her ancestry back to David and Bathsheba.
Wow.
It's available.
Oh, Mom.
Take advantage of it, and you might learn to have a greater respect and a bond with ancestors that you never
Okay, thank you.
I just forgot to tell Lee, he had talked with my wife, whose last name was Chandler,
Yeah.
and was asking about Asa. And my wife talked to her dad, and they looked up, and we are related to Asa. He was a brother of Donna's correct line, just so you know.
Hi, cousin.
I know, I'm married, so we can still have a rivalry.
One thing I have learned dealing with families that have gone through losses is you never want to procrastinate when it comes to family. So thank you, Lee. Let's take a moment and capture the thoughts on the evaluation. What was that app again?
Family Search.
Family Search.
That was free.
Oh, yeah. There's an app associated with Family Search called Family Tree.
And I think that goes along with this quote about time. Time you enjoy wasting is not wasted time.
My wife says something about my addiction to crossword puzzles.
Okay, so next up we have Jaylene Case. She is doing a speech in her pathway. Yes?
Yes.
Yes, very good. And the purpose of this project was to learn about the different communication styles and identify her primary style. And the purpose of the speech today is she will share with us the impact of her style on others. Today she is going to be evaluated by Brian Morris. And just to tell you a little bit about Jaylene, she came into my life about a year ago, and she is an amazing woman leader. She is a professional executive coach or executive professional coach.
Something like that.
She is surely not feckless as she goes into whether it be helping an individual develop their expertise and unleash their power, or going into businesses and helping unleash the power of a team. So we're excited to hear from you, Jaylene, and she's going to present at the end.
Thank you, Julia. This last year, I have learned more than ever before about communication styles. I've learned more about my style, about other people's styles, and the impact that my style has on other people. And the main thing I learned is it's not all about me. And so today we're going to talk about how to not be feckless communicators. The main way I learned is through becoming certified in an assessment tool called DISC. And DISC measures our observable behaviors. It measures how we do what we do. And the primary focus of this is on communicating. I'm going to give you an overview of DISC, and then we'll dive into a little more detail, and you may even end up seeing yourself in some of these details today. The D in DISC stands for dominance, and it has to do with how we relate to and deal with problems and challenges. The I is related to influence and how we deal with people and contacts. The S is for steadiness, and it has to do with the pace and consistency at which we like to work. And the C is for compliance, and it has to do with how we approach procedures and constraints. Here's a little more about each of these, and kind of pay attention and just see where you notice yourself falling in here. And I would say none of us are all one of these styles. So we're all a mixture. There are 364 different profiles that this particular organization who offers DISC goes into. So this first one, D. If you're a person with a high D influence, you're mostly fast-paced, task-oriented, and extroverted. High Ds like to focus on the big picture. They like to avoid small talk and get right to the point. So when you're talking to them, you want to come with solutions. A person that is a more high I is fast-paced, people-oriented, and extroverted. And high Is, it's all about the people connection. So when you're talking with them and communicating with them, you want to be sure to connect with them first before you dive into demands or business facts. People who are high S's are more slow-paced. They're still people-oriented and they're introverted. And high S's like a nice, stable, steady pace. They like to stay the course. When you communicate with them, they like a reasonable pace. They want to know what's expected of them before you move on to the next topic. Someone that's more a high C is slow-paced, task-oriented, and introverted. People who are high Cs are all about the facts and the details. You don't want to rush them, don't get into a bunch of small talk, and really provide organization in the material that you're presenting to them. So what does this look like in real life? Well, my husband and I have taken this assessment, so I'm going to share with you our scores in each of these areas. Each area, you're scored from 1 to 100. So my score in that upper left-hand corner, or upper right-hand corner, oh, it doesn't show up on the screen, is in black, and his is in white. So you can see in the D area, we're pretty close, 45 and 56. In the I area, oh, big difference. I'm an 84, he's an 18, right? Are you all surprised? Yeah. The S area, we're pretty similar, 66 and 70. And the C area, oh, big difference. I'm an 18, he's a 71. So what does that look like? How do you actually practice this in real life? All right, here's the scene. It's morning in our household, and Jaylene has been up for a while because she mostly wakes up early. She's had her first cup of coffee, and she is full of ideas and thoughts to share. And so her husband comes out of the bedroom, slowly walking toward the kitchen to make his tea, and she said, "Hey, I've got this great idea to share with you. What if we added a sunroom onto the house? And the door could be here, and it could look like this." He looked at me and he said, "Could you not approach me so early in the morning about things like this?" Because we had taken this and we'd had conversations about this, and he was appreciating this difference. All right. So now when I approach him, so you could probably both see the high I, right? I wanted to connect with him. I wanted to tell him. I wanted to share my excitement. And I was being really fast paced. His high C, he likes to go at a slower pace. He likes the facts and details. You know, I can just dive right into something without having no facts. So what I've learned is that communicating with other people is not all about me. It's really more similar to being in a foreign country who doesn't speak the same language as me. It's not enough to speak English louder and more slowly. Just like it's not enough for me to develop my style to be better. What works better is if I try to speak their language, if I understand more about the other person's style. That's really what leads to better communication. That's it. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Jaylene. Take a moment and capture our thoughts.